Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're very happy to have you here. My name is Danielle, and I welcome you to our live 0% bounce maximum reach email verification tips to boost your business operations. Before introducing you to our presenters tonight, I'd like to briefly present Plauti. We are a global leader in Salesforce data management solutions since 2012. Our goal is to enhance the data experience and champion what we call data happiness. With over 2,000 customers worldwide, our solutions are natively integrated with Salesforce, ready for all industries, and committed to. Now to our presenters. Today we have Nico and Leslie. They will leave this live. Nico is part of our account executive team, and Leslie is our sales engineer. During the live, please feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or share your thoughts throughout our session. If we don't answer them immediately, we will do so during the Q&A session at the end. Now, without further ado, let me pass the stage over to Nico, who will kick things off and guide us through today's exciting topic. Nico, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Daniel, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. Good night, good evening, good morning, all over the world. I don't know where you guys are based. We're based here in the Netherlands. So yeah, it's good evening for us. Thanks for joining us on this webinar. Today's topic, 0 pounds maximum reach. We're happy to have you here, as my colleague Daniele mentioned. Today it's me, Nico Miedema, account executive here at Plauti, working here for a couple of years. And we have our pre-sales engineer, our amazing Leslie, who, well, I don't know if you're familiar with us, but we had this is our back-to-back back-to-back webinar. We had one last month with Salesforce Ben, focusing everything on duplicates. But today, the topic of the day, 0 bound maximum reach email verification, right? Making sure we have everything ready for those campaigns. So let's focus on the agenda. We'll kick things off by focusing on a brief introduction of email verification. We'll then focus on some strategies for email verification, how to implement them. This will improve, of course, your email deliverability and protect your sender reputation. Then we will focus on some techniques for real-time email validation. Sorry, I think I mentioned deduplication there. Validation, sorry about that. And then we'll go into a live demo, which Leslie will help us with it. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So make sure if you have any questions, if anything's unclear, if you want anything to be further explained, drop it in our comments, and then we'll look at it at the end of the presentation or of the webinar. All right, if you're all excited as I am, let's get started. We'll start simply with an introduction to email verification, right? So as you can see on screen, email verification is the process of confirming the validity or deliverability of an email, right? If I'm sending an email to someone, will it deliver? Will it be bounce? Will it bounce, right? So that's basically the main idea of it. You might be asking, why is this important? Well, it's crucial in order to maintain a clear and effective database, right? Which means there's always a better communication efficiency. You will have a maximum ROI on your marketing campaigns. You want to make sure that the emails you send are delivering. However, there's always challenges that organizations face when discussing about email verification. So let's dive into them first. The first one, data decay, right? The challenge here is that because things change all the time, your data may become obsolete over time. Say, for example, a good example is if you have a contact and he changes from job, well, he's probably going to change his email address. His previous email address, which is the one you have stored, won't be valid anymore, right? That's data decay, changing roles, mergers between companies, change their domains. Well, all those things, if they change their email providers, all those things can change your data, and that will be cause of data decay. But no worries, what to do with that? If you verify your emails regularly, you will be able to ensure that the data is accurate, and you will be able to identify and update any outdated emails or any invalid email addresses, right? If you validate, you'll get an alert and you'll be able to act upon it. Sorry, there was data decay. I missed the click there. Second topic, compliance risk. Of course, you can fail to comply with these regulations such as GDPR or CAN spam. So you want to make sure that you are complying them to avoid any legal repercussions that can affect your brand reputation, right? We know that in this time, brand reputation is a big thing. So we have to make sure we can keep it at top notch. How to help? Well, with some email verification tools, it will help you identify and validate if the status is of opt-in and if you have permissions to send them emails. So therefore ensuring that you're complying with those regulations. Furthermore, inefficient communication. Of course, if you see it a little bit black and white, if you're sending an email to an invalid address, there's not going to be any communication. If you send to it valid, there's going to be communication, right? So sending emails to invalid or inactive addresses is a waste of resource, basically, and it will damage your campaign effectiveness on the long run. So what to do? Verify your emails, filter out anything that's undeliverable so that you address only where somebody's going to reach. This enables for business to focus its resources on engaging responsive contacts. Lastly, data integration. So the integration here, sorry, my mouse is not working. The integration, you want to make sure that it's an easy integration with Salesforce, works seamlessly. Sometimes when working with Salesforce and workflows, it can get tricky, a bit complex, and very time consuming. So to do that, to avoid that, you want to make sure that you implement a Salesforce compatible tool. So an easy email verification solution that is easy to adjust to Salesforce so that you can streamline the data validation process and boosting your operational efficiency within your Salesforce CRM. These are 4 of the challenges: data decay, compliance risk, inefficient communications, data integration. I don't know if you're familiar with them. There's some others, but these are one of the major ones. Of course, if you know more, feel free to drop them in the chat so everyone is aware of them. Now, with the challenges addressed, we can make sure we can look at the strategies to how to implement solutions. So let's see at those possibilities there. A good place to start, since we mentioned Salesforce, is to use the built-in solutions of Salesforce, right, and features. This way, when you're entering data to Salesforce, you can ensure that at least the format of the emails is correct. You're entering a correct format. We'll show a little bit more about this, how our solution record validation works as you enter new records to Salesforce. So that will help in that process. Furthermore, we have the validation rules. You can create validations rule within Salesforce to enforce specific format and standards for email addresses. So these rules will trigger basically an alert or a flag, as you want to name it, for that when records are being created or updated and the email is invalid, something will show up to you so you can address that error instantly and try to correct it there, right? Furthermore, third parties, as we mentioned, we have record validation. That's a third party. We'll show more about it later. But you want to integrate sometimes third-party email validation services because they're a bit more advanced than what Salesforce can do. So we typically see that they're more advanced in performance, meaning that they not only check for the format, say username @domain.com, but you can actually verify a lot of the times if the domain is correct, if it actually exists, or you can check if the emails are, for example, temporary or disposable emails, spam traps, and so on. So you get a little bit more level of validation in that sense. Another strategy is, to automate the validation process. So you can implement tools, for example, the Salesforce process builder and workflow rules to automate these processes to make sure everything goes smoother. And one very important, train your users, right? As I'm a big sports fan, in a team, you're only as strong as your weakest link. if your end users are not aware of how the solutions work, the solution won't be able to optimize its capabilities for you. So educate your sales force, give them documentation, train them, make sure that they understand why it's important to have a clean database and an accurate database. So be sure to provide them with training sessions, documentations on how to basically have email validation in process so that they can get the best out of their activities with this implementation. Hope this is clear. These are 5 different strategies, right? Now, I want to make a point with 2 different approaches. Let me click my screen first. First of all, periodic cleaning, right? As the name will say, basically every now and then you do a cleaning or a validation of these emails, and a real-time validation. So upon entry, you validate those records. There's 2 different approaches. They have their cons and their pros. So we'll try to evaluate that now. Looking at the periodic cleaning, right? There are some advantages there. So it tends to be more cost effective in the sense that you will validate what you have to validate for your business case. So we see a lot of this. It's suitable when your database also doesn't change that much, when your email addresses of your contacts tends to not fluctuate that much. The process, as I mentioned, would be you schedule an email verification, say every month, every 3 months, every quarter, every year, so that you know when was the last time it was validated, to make sure it's an email that you can use or not. And then if it's invalid, you can take the steps on try to correct it. If you have a phone number, reach out to them, try to get their correct email. Maybe they changed job, maybe there was a merger between the companies, just like the examples we shared at the beginning. Recommendation for this one, as I mentioned, if you have lower email volume, then you can think of this strategy. Or if your database tends to not change that much, right? If you work with a lot of contacts where there's not really a lot of changes, then it's definitely this could be a way to go. On the other hand, we have a real-time validation. So you can identify, the advantage is that you can identify and try to solve any invalid email address as soon as they're coming in. That way you're already ensuring that the data accuracy is done in real time, right? So for example, let's see, end users, right? So for your salespeople, let's say they're on the phone with a prospect. Well, we know, all salespeople know that sometimes prospects are busy and they mention, send me an email, right? So we do that. Sometimes we have to do that. We ask for their email, say we're typing it in Salesforce with them in the call. If by any chance I misspelled anything or something wrong, I will have a real validation there that says this email is incorrect, invalid. And since I'm with the prospect on the phone, I can double check. Hey, I typed this in, seems to be wrong. Can you help me out? This way, it's a real-time validation, making sure in this example that you always get the correct email. The process, well, as I mentioned, as you're entering the record, you can make sure it's validated. If something is wrong, you can address it at that certain point. Recommendation for this one, large businesses, right? If you have a huge email volume, it can be changing a lot. You want to make sure that every time you do campaigns or marketing approach, anything, you want to make sure that they're valid to help with deliverability, sender reputation, and all of those good things for marketing campaigns. Summing this up, there's 2 different approaches, right? Periodic and time validation. However, we see that often a combination of both happens. They validate upon entry, and then even then also there's a periodical cleaning every now and then to make sure it's always up to date. So you can do basically a validation upon then enter. If you're running a campaign, do a validation right before, and then systematically every 3 months, for example, a validation to make sure everything is always up to date. Now, moving forward, we're going to be discussing how to improve deliverability, protecting sender reputation, and email validation. I'm sure a lot of you marketeers out there watching this have a big smile on your face. This is a very heavy topic for marketing campaigns. So we'll start by trying to link these terms together. So we'll split it into three different parts, as you can see on screen: email validation, deliverability rates, and sender reputation. If we start with email validation, well, what we've been discussing, right? Ensuring that emails are only sent to addresses that are active, so that we have a lower bounce rate. If we have a low bounce rate, because we removed of those invalid emails, there's a chance that, well, we have better sending. And if we do have a high bounce rate, that will impact our sender reputation negatively, and that will also impact our deliverability rates. So here, reduction of bounce rates is also very important. Lastly, enhanced communication, right? If you send an email to a valid email address, that means that there's more likely to be a communication, a more efficient communication, higher engagement with your recipient. If you send it to a lot of invalid emails, they're not going to reply. That will damage all your metrics and your engagement performance, right? So make sure that when you're doing campaigns, you work on valid emails. Now, if we move forward, we can focus on deliverability rates. Excuse me. This basically measures the effectiveness, let's say, of your campaigns, right? Are they being open? Are they clicking? Are they replying? That kind of ideas. So a very important one is the email content. You'll be surprised. It's very important to make sure that your email content is relevant to what your recipient is doing, right? If it's relevant, it causes for engagement from their side. There's a higher chance for it to bypass all the spam filters and to actually reach that inbox. If the content of your email provides value, that will encourage interaction, which also boosts a lot of your deliverability rate. Then we have sender reputation. This directly impacts your deliverability rate, right? You want to have a good sender reputation. So ISPs, internet service providers, and email services providers will basically assess your reputation based on some factors like the engagement metrics. If they complain a lot that your emails are spam, or if you have a lot of bounce rates, you have a lower sender reputation. And if you have a lower sender reputation, there's a high chance your emails will go to the spam mailbox. And I mean, you all know what happens there. Nobody's going to read that email, right? So make sure you don't send them there. And lastly, as we mentioned here, through the engagement, if they're being opened, if they're being clicked, or if you get replies, this signals the internet service providers and the email providers that people actually want to, well, say it brutally, they actually want to listen to you. They actually want to know what you're saying. So this is the engagement metrics, right? Making sure that your emails have good content so that they engage will make sure that the ISPs and email providers know that people actually want to listen to you. And lastly, if we move to the last topic, the sender reputation, the email engagement. Sender reputation refers to how reliable, how trustworthy your reputation is. So think not only on your personal email, but your domain, your IP address, right? If you're sending a lot of spam, a lot of undeliverabilities, your reputation is going to be low. So similar to previous topics, there's different things that you can do. Email engagement, as we mentioned, it's a key topic when doing marketing campaigns. Positive engagement metrics, high open rates, high click rates. This all contributes on a good sender reputation. On the other hand, if it's low, well, your content will be classified as spammy or irrelevant, and there's less, it will affect your reputation. There's less reputation in that sense. Sorry about the wording there. Spam complaints. If you send irrelevant emails to all your prospects, they can click it as spam, of course. If you are flagged a lot of times as spam, that damages your reputation, and then that damages next email you send will be spam, and so on. So it's a bit of a downward spiral that will affect your reputation. And lastly, bounce rates, especially if these bounces are because of emails that never existed or don't exist, that really negatively impacts your sender reputation. So of course, make sure to regularly validate those emails before you're contacting. So you have your email list or your contact list. Make sure you validate so that you minimize that bounce. This is the three topics, right? Email deliverability, email verification, and sender reputation. How those three work together and how they basically give you a score on your ISP and your email domains to make sure that your email has the best chance to reach its intended target. Now, as we mentioned, there's different ways of periodic cleaning, real-time validation. So if we focus on the techniques for real-time email validation, it involves checking the validity and the deliverability of email addresses at the point of entry, or before sending the communication, right? Making a quick validation before you're doing your marketing campaign. That's what we define as real-time email verification. And this impacts your campaign performance, right? If the emails are valid, you can ensure that they're going to reach someone or they're going to reach their target, which will lead to a better deliverability, more engagement, and an overall more successful campaign, right? Because you're reaching your intended target. On the other hand, I want to discuss the capabilities of Salesforce. So Salesforce native and all the integrations it comes with it for real-time verification include rules, so email validation rules. So if you configure these rules to ensure that only the properly formatted emails are accepted, then that will help already a little bit with the validation, right? It's not that you can say username.com as an email, right? You have to, it will look at the form and say username@domain.com. That's already a good start for it. But on the other hand, you have third-party integrations that are a bit more advanced. As we mentioned, they not only focus on the format, username@domain, but can also let you know if the domains are exist, if it's disposable addresses, spam traps, catch-all policies, and a lot of those good things, free domains or real users, a lot of good things so that you can really filter down to have the best campaign performance you can have, right? Making sure that you only email those codes, or if you want to mention codes for the spam traps or free domains and so on, that you can include them in your outreach. However, as you all might be aware, great tool, Salesforce, we love it, but there's always some limitations. So that's something we'll discover now. As you can see on screen, they're all popping up. There are some limitations with Salesforce with everything. Although for a starting point, they're great, of course, but on the long run, you might consider moving to third party because of the limitations we're about to discuss. Starting at the top, basic format validation only. This is what I mentioned, checking only username@domain. So that's a basic format for email validation. Funny story. One of the companies I was working with, they had basically a chatbot, and for them to be able to close, for the end users to be able to close that chat box, they needed an email. But of course, sometimes prospects don't want to give an email. They would be writing down, I don't know, @doesn't-have.com, which it's a funny way of doing business in that sense, because you're storing definitely irrelevant data, but it's a real case. So if you have this type of validations, that will make sure that you can have clean data in your database so that you can better perform those campaigns. Another way, no verification of email existence. So it doesn't let you know if the address actually exists. It just knows that the format is correct, right? So it won't check the domain to see if they can receive an email in that sense. Limited customization. So while Salesforce allows for some customization, there's a little bit there. The complexity that some organizations have and they want to achieve, it's only achievable basically with third parties. So for instance, enforcing specific domain names or restricting certain types of emails that might require some complex workarounds within Salesforce, which you're probably better off finding a third-party solution. Then, of course, no real-time verification. Salesforce validation happens at the point of entry of record or of an update and does not include any real-time verification or any monitoring of email address validity. This means that if the email is valid at the time of entry, but then it changed, it will never know that it changed. So there's no way of reactively approach, let's say, in that sense. So you want to make sure you have a third party to clean that. Handling disposable email addresses. Salesforce native capabilities do not specifically identify or block all these temporary mails. As we mentioned, they only focus on the format. So these limitations can be significant for a lot of organizations, right? Which will affect your long-term relationship with your prospects. And bulk validation. Some organizations have a large data volume of email addresses. They want to make sure that it's all validated. This is not really easy to be achieved with Salesforce, or it's not robust or efficient enough. So you probably will need some external tools. These are some of the limitations on Salesforce. You might be thinking, how would this impact me? How does it impact my operations? So I have three short topics that we can discuss. There's more, of course, depends a lot. These are very general topics, but of course, depending on your database, depending on how you use your emails, the impact business can be different. First of all, streamline communication. As you can see, you want to ensure that the message goes to who is intended to receive that image, so it will minimize any bounce rates and improve your engagement. You want to enhance the data quality, so make sure you validate the contact, reducing all the inaccuracies and enhancing CRM effectiveness. Make sure you get the best out of Salesforce. Lastly, compliance assurance. As we mentioned, there's some legal requirements there, so you want to mitigate those as risks, so that you can always make sure that there's no lawsuits or so coming in. As we mentioned, there's some spam cam, for example, or GDPR rules that you want to be following to ensure you have a great brand reputation, right? You don't want to be on the news because of a simple, well, not a simple, but a lawsuit because of your email validations. It's a bit of a summary of how it affects, right? If we move forward, we're going to see exactly how validating email in Salesforce works. So I'm sure you probably know some of the benefits, as we mentioned, but with Salesforce itself, you can think of a single source of truth. This is something that will help if you have emails validated. It will help your single source of truth. It will help your duplication reduction. It will help you streamline processes and just overall your resource optimization, right? Making sure that your resources are allocated to what they should be allocated. So this will definitely give a boost to your Salesforce environment. Single source of truth. If you work with Salesforce, I'm sure you know what this means. Customer 360, depending on your industry, donor 360, policy holder 360, right? You want to make sure that you have a clear view of who your customer, your prospect, who your data is about, right? So that's definitely a step one. If you have valid emails, you can, well, that's step one of having a single source of truth. A centralized data management. If you're validating within Salesforce, if you have different integrations that work with Salesforce, if it's valid in Salesforce, it's going to be valid in all the different integrations too. So ensure that your contact or your lead or your record data is all on a verified status. This approach eliminates any irregularities that you can have on different systems, right? Since Salesforce is the single source of truth. If it's valid in Salesforce, it will be working with all the different integrations or systems that you have around it. And overall, data quality, right? Salesforce itself, they know how important data is. It's one of the key topics in all the different world tours, Dreamforce, all the events that we have. And we cannot but agree exactly with what they say. You want to enhance your overall data quality. So with Salesforce acting as your central database, it's easier to have clean data with all the different integrations, making a bit of a uniform standard approach of validation. And if there's something wrong, you clean it on Salesforce, and that will automatically, with the synchronization, clean it to all the different systems. And as mentioned, there's more benefits, so we'll go a bit more into depth benefits, so we can go through them. The first one, very, very heavy topic with us at Plauti, those who knows, duplication reduction. You want to prevent duplicates from Salesforce, right? And you don't want the double outreach. You want to keep your brand reputation up. So make sure that you deduplicate them. Why is email validation important here? Well, a lot of the time, one of the key metrics to identify duplicates is via emails. If you're comparing between records, to prevent duplicates, you will probably be comparing something around the lines of first name, last name, email address, phone numbers, companies. So if you have a valid email, an email that works, that's going to make your life a lot easier. And of course, it will enhance your data accuracy. So validating these emails accurately will help you identify these duplicates, get rid of them, know what happens when it merges. And for those marketing campaigns, you will be able to ensure that these duplicates won't be receiving, or this one record won't be receiving a double outreach, which definitely affects your brand reputation and looks very unprofessional, if I'm being honest. More benefits of this streamlined process. This means that there's an efficiency in the workflow. People know what's happening. Think of the actions that you can take based on the email validity, right? You get a lot of leads. If you have valid emails, that just opens a lot of possibilities, nurturing campaigns, follow-ups, campaigns for targeting, and so on. There's a lot more you can do with a valid email, and a lot more people you can reach with. So that way you can basically you can automatically continue the process of whether it be nurturing campaigns, follow-ups, and so on. So it will reduce that manual interaction of having to validate everything, and it will speed up your marketing and sales cycle. As we know, speed to lead is a big factor in that sense. So you'll be able to act as soon as possible. Furthermore, it will be an integrated approach. So having Salesforce as a primary CRM for all your activities, you will be integrating validation directly into Salesforce, into the Salesforce workflows. So it will ensure you have a cohesive approach within all your activities. So you'll be able to real-time validate, take immediate action on the results, such as the segmentation of emails or personalized communication for these strategies. And the last one, which we've mentioned, resource optimization, right? Think of all the costs you'll be saving by not reaching out to unnecessary emails, right? All the time you will be saving. So it definitely is worthwhile to validate everything. Using Salesforce for email validation is the most cost-effective way, right? Because it's included in the subscription you have with them. In relation to third-party app, it's an additional cost in that sense. But as we mentioned, it's definitely worthwhile with a lot more advanced features and a higher level of verification and validation of your campaigns. So there's a bit of a balance there. What do you want? Cost effectiveness with Salesforce, but with a high chance of invalid emails, since it only looks at the format, or a third party, which might be a slightly bigger investment at the beginning, but the results will be, exponentially there, since you'll be able to engage better with your prospects or your customers, whatever business case you have there. The benefit on the only Salesforce size could be that you only have one tool, right? You only focus on Salesforce. You minimize the need of expanding your tech stack, so organizations can really streamline their operations, their tech stack, making sure that they're really experts on the few things they have. So it reduces training, it reduces basically it reduces IT maintenance to make sure that everything is running smoothly. I think this comes to an end. I hope you've learned something about the validation, how important it is for your marketing campaigns. It's not really the end yet. I think we have one of the most exciting parts. Leslie will be giving us a live demo of how our solution, record validation, can help you with all the topics we mentioned. So, Leslie, I'll give you the floor right now.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is going to be a really high-level demo of our record validation product. So there are multiple ways to validate records with record validation. You already heard Nico explain the difference between periodic cleaning and real-time validation. So you can validate when the records are automatically inserted via API or web forms. You can validate when records are manually entered into Salesforce. These are both with real-time validation. But you can also validate by batch for all of the records that are already in Salesforce. So this would be part of the periodic cleanup. First, I'm going to show validation when a record is automatically inserted to Salesforce. We are going to use a web to lead form to show it, but you can think of this as any record being inserted automatically into Salesforce from any integration, whether it's web forms, bulk uploads, or API integrations, perhaps with a marketing application or ERP. So here I've entered a new lead record under my name, and I'm going to send it. So when I hit submit, we are creating a new record in Salesforce, a new lead record. What's happening in the background now is that record validation is going to validate the new lead record. So if I go find my lead record, there we are. We can see that it automatically formatted the phone number and enriched the address. These are a couple of the other fields that work in our validation product. So, but we're here to talk about emails. For the email, of course, it's already in the right format. But what has happened in the background is we've actually done an SMTP check to ping the email to see if it actually bounces or not. In this way, we can also identify disposable emails, free emails, server catch-all policies, and do real user verification so that you could filter some or all of those types of emails out of your lists by using the validation code and the validation message. And here is the date as well. So these can all be stored on the record itself. In this way, like Nico was explaining earlier, you can be confident that you can add this email to your marketing campaigns and email lists. You won't get bounce backs on bad email addresses. Your reliability ratings will remain high. Your users can reach out and be confident they aren't wasting time with a bad email address. So that is just a little bit about our automation with new records, but we also have some nice end user tools. So we have a validation lightning component that can be added to the record itself. So this is so the validation can be seen by your users when they're working with a record. We can see here the red, yellow, green status, and there's an overall one here at the top. And there's more details with the message over here. Your users can look at this when they're working on a record and immediately know this contact data is valid before reaching out. Here we have a date as well. If it's been too long since it was last validated, the user can revalidate with a single click to make sure that this is still a good email before reaching out. Or they can validate immediately if they're on a record that hasn't been validated before. Next, I am going to show validation in real time using the Salesforce manual entry form. So we can help your users standardize and validate data as they are typing. enabling them to save time and prevent bad data from entering Salesforce in the first place. So we are actually mirroring the standard Salesforce entry screen, and we're adding our own validation and also deduplication on top of that. So this is whatever fields that you have in your layout, that's what you're going to see here. We aren't changing that. So it validates the email address when you tab out. So if I hover over here, I get a message. This email is correct and confirmed as a real user. If I do an extremely common misspelling of my name and tab out, we can see that it turns it red and it tells us that it's invalid and that it bounced. It is, once again, actually pinging that email address, so it can tell if it's real or not. We also have different messages for other types of emails. So this is our support email. This one's a little different because it's a real email. The email is correct, but can't be associated with a particular person. This is because it's a mailbox monitored by our whole support team. We have several messages for free use email domains like Gmail, temporary email addresses, and domains with catch-all policies, among other things. Again, the code and messages can be saved onto the record so that you can filter some or all of these types of emails out of your reports and email campaigns. There is also a setting that you can use to keep users from saving this record if the email is invalid, preventing that bad data from entering Salesforce in the first place. Of course, we also have batch jobs. I go over here. So this is for all your records that are already in Salesforce. This is what you're going to use for your initial cleanup and then periodically to clean up data decay. This is something else that Nico was explaining earlier. You know, when someone leaves a company or changes email addresses, an email address that was valid when it came in might not be valid anymore, and those will show up here. They're really easy to set up. First, you have to name it and choose your object and choose the field you're validating. You're able to use RV statuses as a filter, or down here, this filter will work on Salesforce fields. Maybe you want to filter by a modified date or a status or some other field on your lead or whichever object you're looking at. In the end, it does need a little bit of time to run, but you see your results here. There's a nice red, yellow, green. Of course, my demo data is mostly fake, so most of it's going to be red. But if I go back to our lead list view, maybe I'll do this so I can get some different results here at the top. We can see that the validation codes and the validation messages and the validation dates have been saved onto the record. You can use these to filter bad emails or certain types of emails, like the temporary types of emails, out of your campaigns, or to make reports or tasks to follow up and get updated contact information. Besides what I've shown so far, we also have other integration options that maybe aren't so easy to demo. We have flow actions for validation that you can add to your existing Salesforce flows. We also have an Apex API for your projects that are within Salesforce. And we also have a REST API, which can be used outside of Salesforce. One use case for this would be on a web form. You have a user entering their contact data. The form could call our REST API to immediately validate the email and show on the form a message that the email was invalid and to enter a valid email before you can save the form. I hope I've given a good high-level overview of record validation. For now, I'm going to send it back to Nico.
Amazing. Thanks, Leslie, for that. That was a pretty good, thorough explanation in a nutshell of what record validation can do and how important it is to definitely validate your emails, right? Specifically, pay attention to the different status codes that we provide. So a lot of differences. As I mentioned, Salesforce itself provides you very limited codes. Well, none actually, basically only formatting. and this is definitely boosts your campaign performances when you can be able to filter down on those codes. So if you're ready to work on your campaigns, up your email games, make sure to reach out to us, either to me or Leslie on LinkedIn. I'm sure our profiles are somewhere here on screen or easy to find. But if you want a bit more time, go into plauti.com. That's our website. You'll find our different solutions. Duplicate check for duplicates, DAP, data action platform, for a lot of those admin tasks within Salesforce, and the key of today, record validation. And our suite, of course, record validation will focus on validating emails, phone numbers, addresses, whatever you need in that sense. Other than that, you can reach out through our App Exchange listing. So go to the App Exchange, record validation, and you can get started now. We actually provide a trial period, so make sure you can download that trial. It comes with some credits, and you can start validating emails to boost your campaign performances. Thank you all for listening. Hope you've learned a lot, both from the presentation and the live demo. Hope you're excited to work on your email campaigns. For now, I think we can go into a Q&A. I don't know if there's any questions that came on the chat, anything that wants to come in now, feel free to bring it our way.
Hi, Nico and Leslie. Thank you very much. It was an amazing presentation. I think some people might still preparing their questions, but we have, in the meantime, an interesting one. How does record validation handle real-time validation across different countries if you consider the variation in data formats and validation rules? How we can do that?
That's a really good question. It's entirely dependent on the speed of Salesforce, of the Salesforce cloud. Because we are native to Salesforce, it's working in the same speed.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for new records, I don't want to say it's instantaneous, but it's momentary.
Okay, good. Yeah, I cannot see any further questions. So I think that's it for today, for tonight. So thank you very much, everybody who joined. We really appreciate. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you have any other questions, please just, as Nico mentioned, go to our website. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.